it's a uniquely modern phenomenon, I think, to just feel entirely overwhelmed by a rectangular piece of glass and metal.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, like you walk into a store or you open a web page and you are just hit with this absolute avalanche of buzzwords. You've got neural processing, vapor chambers, agentic AI, and you're just sitting there thinking, I mean, I just want to know if this thing is actually going to last all day and like take good photos of my dog.
Yeah, it's the paradox of choice, completely weaponized by marketing departments. I mean, the more features they throw at us, the harder it becomes to actually figure out what really matters for you.
Which is exactly why we are here with you today for this deep dive into the brand new, highly anticipated 2026 Samsung Galaxy S26 series. We're looking at the base model, the Plus, and the Ultra.
Yeah, the whole lineup.
Exactly. And to get past the marketing spin, we've pulled together everything. I mean, we've got granular engineering spec sheets, we've got hands-on video teardowns by reviewers like Nick Ackerman, plus global buyer guides covering the markets in the US, the UK, India. It's a lot.
Because the goal isn't just to, read off a list of numbers. It's to understand how those numbers actually change the way you interact with your device every single day.
Precisely. Our mission today is to cut right through that relentless hype. Like, is the Galaxy S26 series actually a massive leap forward for smartphone technology? Or is this just a really safe incremental update designed to just get you to part with your cash?
Right, the real question.
Yeah. And most importantly, which of these three models actually makes sense for your specific needs? Okay, let's unpack this.
I think the best place to start isn't actually with the physical hardware at all, because if you look at Samsung's core pitch for the S26, the real paradigm shift is happening completely invisibly.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is all about the brain of the phone. And specifically, there's this massive 39% boost in the performance of the neural processing unit.
So just to clarify for everyone real quick, the neural processing unit, or NPU, is essentially this specialized sector of the phone's brain that's built entirely for handling artificial intelligence tasks.
Exactly.
All right, so it frees up the main processor, so your phone doesn't suddenly slow down when it's doing complex math.
Yeah.
And Samsung is using this 39% boost to drive what they are calling a shift from reactive AI to, and this is a buzzword, agentic AI.
And the distinction between reactive and agentic is basically the foundation of this entire phone. So for the last few years, AI on our phones has been mostly reactive, right? You ask it a question, it gives you an answer.
Yeah.
You tap a button to edit a photo, it edits the photo, it essentially just sits there and waits for your explicit command.
Like a really advanced search engine, basically.
Yes, exactly. But agentic AI feels more like an eager executive assistant who is constantly anticipating what you need before you even realize you need it.
Yeah.
And they're powering this by integrating Google Gemini and specifically utilizing Perplexity's Sonar API. Now, I know APIs can sound like deep developer jargon.
A little bit, yeah.
But essentially, this Sonar API acts as a real-time tether to the internet. It doesn't just search for links, it actively scans, reads, and synthesizes information from across the web in milliseconds to formulate a direct action.
Right, and what's fascinating here is how that manifests in the user interface, right? Through features like Now Nudge.
Oh, Now Nudge is incredible.
Yeah, it's deeply context aware. So let's say a friend texts you asking for photos from your recent vacation. The phone's AI actually analyzes what is currently on your screen, understands the context of that specific conversation, and instantly surfaces a shortcut to your gallery right there in the chat.
Which is huge because you don't have to minimize the messaging app, open your gallery, hunt for the photo, hit share, find the contact.
Right, the phone just serves it up on a silver platter because it already knows what you're trying to do. And then there's Now Brief, which operates like a hyper-personalized daily summary engine.
Yeah, and it isn't just feeding you general news headlines, it is pulling from your Gmail, your Samsung wallet, your daily habits, and giving you a completely bespoke briefing. It's crazy.
It's reminding you that you have a flight in 4 hours, noting that it's a friend's birthday, and surfacing your favorite workout playlist right at 5:00 p.m. because it knows that's when you usually walk into the gym.
And it even takes it a step further, right? By handling multi-step background tasks completely autonomously. Like you can literally just tell the phone, book a taxi to the airport.
Right.
And the agentic AI will it opens your rideshare app, plugs in the destination based on what it sees in your calendar, calculates the fare, and prepares the ride.
It does all of that for you.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there, though, because my mind immediately goes to the absolute worst case scenario.
Uh-oh, naturally.
Well, yeah. If I just casually tell my phone to book a taxi and the AI decides to book a $150 luxury black car instead of just a standard sedan, who pays for that? Or,
Hmm.
like, what if it books a flight for the wrong day? The liability of giving an agentic AI access to your credit card and your calendar, I mean, that seems terrifying. Is this going to feel completely intrusive? That is a very valid concern, and it's exactly why Samsung implements what's known as human-in-the-loop safeguards.
Okay, what does that mean?
So the AI does all the heavy lifting. It opens
Hmm.
the app, fills like the forms, selects the route, but it quietly waits in the background for your final physical tap of approval before actually spending your money.
Oh, okay. That's a relief.
Right. And as for the privacy aspect of it, literally reading your screen all day, Samsung relies heavily on the Knox Vault.
Right, and Knoxville gets thrown around in their marketing all the time. But we should be really clear for you listening, this isn't just software encryption. The Knox Vault is a physically isolated subsystem sitting right on the phone's motherboard.
Yeah, physical hardware.
Exactly. It has its own processor and its own memory that is completely cut off from the main Android operating system. So when the AI is scanning your private emails to give you a briefing, that data is processed locally inside that vault. It never gets beamed up to a cloud server where it could be, intercepted.
Which is a huge win for privacy. But
But let's think about the physics of this for a second. If you have an AI agent constantly scanning your screen, processing data locally, and pre-computing actions, that requires an immense amount of continuous electrical power.
oh, absolutely.
Right, like if you put that kind of desktop-level workload into a device that's half an inch thick, the physics just don't make sense to me. Unless they want this thing to literally melt right through my pocket and drain the battery by noon, they must have entirely redesigned the cooling and power systems.
They absolutely had to. And they attacked that physics problem from three different angles, really: the silicon chips, the thermal management, and adaptive software.
Okay.
Let's look at the chips first, because this is where the global market gets a little, well, complicated.
Ah, yes, the return of the dual chip strategy.
Yep.
So if you are buying the Baser Plus model in the US or China, you are getting the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 processor. But if you're in the rest of the world like Europe or India, you are getting Samsung's in-house Exynos 2600.
Unless you buy the Ultra, right? Which gets the Snapdragon globally. But honestly, what really matters here is the architecture. These are 2 nanometer and 3 nanometer chips.
And just to ground that abstract measurement for a second, a nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter.
Hmm.
We are talking about transistors so unimaginably small that you can pack billions more of them into the exact same physical footprint on the silicon.
Exactly. And when transistors are that microscopic and packed that close together, the electrical signals literally don't have to travel as far.
Right.
So this drastically reduces the amount of power required to perform a calculation while simultaneously speeding everything up.
Which translates to massive real-world performance bumps. I mean, the testing shows 19% faster processing and 24% better graphics performance compared to last year's S25.
It's a huge jump.
Yeah. Reviewers who pushed this phone to its absolute limits with heavy gaming found that the Ultra easily handles console-quality titles like Genshin Impact with full ray tracing enabled.
And ray tracing is computationally brutal. Instead of just, painting a flat shadow on the screen, the phone's processor is mathematically calculating the physical path of individual light rays in real time to create perfect, dynamic shadows and reflections.
Oh.
Pair that with ProScaler, which uses AI to take a lower resolution game and magically fill in the missing pixels so it looks razor sharp without taxing the system as much, and the gaming performance is just stunning.
But, I mean, doing millions of light ray calculations a second generates incredible heat. And as we all know, heat is the ultimate enemy of technology. When a phone gets hot, the processor throttles itself to prevent melting, which makes your games stutter, and the heat chemically degrades your battery over time.
Right.
So to combat this, Samsung put a massive vapor chamber inside the Ultra, delivering 21% greater cooling performance.
It is an ingenious piece of engineering, really. A vapor chamber is basically the phone sweating. Yeah. Inside the chassis, there is a flat, vacuum-sealed copper plate containing a tiny amount of liquid. When the chip gets hot from all that gaming or AI processing, that liquid absorbs the heat and vaporizes into a gas.
Oh, I see.
The gas then travels through these microscopic channels to the cooler areas of the phone, releases the heat outward, condenses back into a liquid, and flows right back to the chip to do it all over again. It's like a microscopic, self-contained weather system.
That is so cool. And the impact of that weather system on the battery life is just undeniable. Instead of just listing off milliamp hour sizes, look at the relative impact. The Ultra has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. That is the exact same physical capacity as last year.
Yep, no change there.
But in independent endurance testing, the S26 Ultra lasted over 16 hours. That is nearly 2 full hours longer than last year's model, running off the exact same amount of stored energy.
It's wild. That is the triad at work, the efficiency of the 2 nanometer chip, the vapor cooling keeping it stable, and the AI dynamically dialing down power when you just don't need it.
Okay, but we do need to address how you actually get power back into the device, because the charging situation introduces a rather puzzling hardware decision.
Oh, right.
So Samsung upgraded the wired charging speed to 60 watts for the Ultra, and they adopted the new Qi 2 wireless charging standard across the entire board.
Yes, and Qi 2 is fantastic because it's fundamentally built on the magnetic alignment tech that Apple uses for MagSafe. It promises perfectly aligned, fast wireless charging.
Right. But wait. The sources show that while the S26 series supports the Qi 2 charging speeds, Samsung did not actually put the magnetic rings inside the phones themselves.
Yeah, they didn't.
Why adopt the magnetic standard but force us to buy a bulky third-party magnetic case just to get the phone to snap onto a charger?
It feels like a massive oversight at first until you really look at the engineering tolerances of the other components. The lack of built-in magnets was a deliberate choice to prevent hardware interference.
Interference with what?
Well, strong magnets sitting flush in the back of the phone can create magnetic fields that severely interfere with the precision of the S Pen's digitizer grid on the Ultra.
Oh, right. The stylus.
Exactly. Furthermore, magnets can disrupt the delicate microscopic springs used for optical image stabilization in that massive vertical camera array. Samsung clearly decided that camera performance and stylus accuracy were just more important than a satisfying magnetic snap on your bedside table.
Okay, I suppose that makes mechanical sense, even if it is frustrating to have the charging speed without the convenience. But, those heat management systems and those magnetic constraints really dictate how the entire device is built.
Which brings us to the physical chassis itself and how we actually interact with all this hidden power, the screens.
Right, and this year, the design language has finally unified. For the longest time, the Ultra looked like it belonged to a completely different family. It was sharp, it was blocky, and very corporate.
Very rectangular. Exactly. But the S26 Ultra, which has a massive 6.9-inch display, now features slightly more rounded edges, bringing it visually in line with the base and the Plus models.
Though ironically, while the Ultra got rounder, the base S26 actually got boxier.
Yeah, a bit of a swap.
The screen size on the base bumped up slightly to 6.3 inches, and reviewers are noting it has lost some of that true compact charm it used to have. But here's where it gets really interesting. Multiple reviewers, including Nick Ackerman, are pointing out that the S26 Plus is actually the hidden gem. It's the ergonomic sweet spot of the entire lineup.
The Plus model is so often the forgotten middle child, but it makes a highly compelling case this year. It features a 6.7-inch display, but the chassis is incredibly thin and lightweight. It simply feels much less cumbersome to hold for long periods than the Ultra.
And here is the kicker. The Plus actually has the sharpest screen of all three phones.
Really?
Yeah. It rocks a full 1440p resolution without any pixel alteration. Ackerman noted it also houses the loudest speakers. But the Ultra does have a major architectural ace up its sleeve when it comes to the display, something they were calling the privacy display.
Yes, internally developed by Samsung Display as the Flex Magic Pixel. This is a truly fascinating piece of hardware engineering. Usually, if you want to stop the person sitting next to you on a flight from reading your sensitive emails, you buy a cheap polarized screen protector and just stick it over your glass.
Right.
The problem is it drastically dims your screen, ruins the contrast, and makes your $1,000 phone look pretty terrible.
It kind of defeats the purpose of buying a beautiful OLED screen in the first place, right?
Precisely. But the S26 Ultra builds this polarization directly into the hardware panel itself, and it can be toggled on and off via software.
Oh, that's smart.
Think of polarization like microscopic vertical blinds. When activated, the screen natively narrows the viewing angle. To you, looking straight on through the open blinds, the screen looks mostly normal. But to the person beside you looking at an angle, the blinds block the light entirely, making the screen unreadable. It really demonstrates a massive focus on enterprise-level professional security.
Although I will say reviewers did note that because of how that hardware polarization is physically layered into the pixels, text can look a tiny bit distorted at certain angles, even when you're looking at it yourself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you're an absolute pixel peeper who wants a flawless, completely unimpeded media display for watching movies, that S26 Plus, without the privacy hardware, might actually look slightly better to your eye.
Which raises a huge strategic question for anyone listening to this. If the S26 Plus is the ergonomic sweet spot, if it has the sharpest unimpeded screen, the loudest speakers, and its battery endurance essentially matches the Ultra, why would anyone pay the massive premium to upgrade to the Ultra?
Because the Ultra is gatekeeping the cameras. That is the only reason.
Yep, there it is.
Right. If you look at the specs, the S26 Base and Plus models are essentially reusing the exact same camera hardware from last year's S25 series. You get the 50-megapixel main sensor, a 12-megapixel ultra-wide, and a 10-megapixel 3x telephoto.
Which is a perfectly solid consumer-grade setup.
Sure, but the Ultra is where the real optical engineering happens.
The physical differences in the lenses on the back are stark. The Ultra boasts a colossal 200-megapixel main camera, but more importantly, it features a wider f1.4 lens.
And we should explain what that actually does. In photography terms, the lower that f number goes, the wider the mechanical aperture, the literal eye of the camera opens up.
Right.
An f1.4 lens is physically gulping in an enormous amount of light. That means when you're trying to take a picture at a dimly lit restaurant or a concert, your photos aren't going to look grainy and washed out.
Beyond the main sensor, the Ultra introduces a brand new mechanism called ALOP All Lens on Prism for its 50-megapixel 5x telephoto camera.
What does that mean?
Well, in older phones, to achieve optical zoom without the lens sticking 3 inches out of the back of the device, engineers had to bounce light off a prism and run the lenses horizontally inside the phone's body, almost like a submarine periscope.
Okay, yeah.
ALOP reorganizes that internal geometry so the lenses sit flat directly on the prism itself. It saves a massive amount of physical space while actually improving image clarity.
And it's not just the glass either. The Ultra hoards the best software perks too. It has Horizon Lock for video, which essentially acts as a digital built-in mechanical gimbal. You can physically rotate the phone 360 degrees while recording, and the horizon stays perfectly level on the screen.
That is wild.
Right. Plus, the Ultra leans heavily into the new natural language photo assist. You can just type, make the background a sunset, or remove the coffee cup, and the AI redraws the image instantly.
It's incredibly powerful.
But I have to push back on behalf of the consumer here, because Apple puts their Pro camera systems on both their smaller Pro models and their larger Pro Max models. You don't have to buy the heaviest, thickest phone to get the best photography. Why is Samsung gatekeeping their best lenses on their most expensive, bulkiest phone?
I know, it's frustrating.
I mean, the Plus model is $1,000. It feels like buying a beautiful sports car that the manufacturer has artificially restricted to only drive 50 miles per hour, just to force you to buy the model up.
I completely understand that frustration. But from a pure business strategy perspective, Samsung relies entirely on the camera capabilities to justify the Ultra's halo status in the market.
Yeah, that's fair.
If the Plus model featured the 200-megapixel sensor and the revolutionary ALOP zoom, a huge percentage of buyers would simply buy the Plus and the Ultra sales would cannibalize. It is a heavily calculated market segmentation.
They know exactly what they are doing to the upsell funnel.
They absolutely do. However, to be fair to the Base and Plus models, they aren't completely ignored photographically. There is a new internal image signal processor, the AI ISP.
Okay.
This chip fundamentally changes how the camera translates raw light data into a digital image. Reviewers found that it vastly improves the rendering of natural skin tones, hair details, and lighting realism on the selfie cameras across all 3 models.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so the foundational image processing is much better, even if the glass on the back hasn't changed.
Okay, so with the 2-nanometer chips, the Agentic AI, the privacy screens, and the camera gatekeeping fully laid out, we have to look at the financial reality of this decision. Because at the end of the day, you are the one pulling out your credit card.
Exactly. Let's break down the pricing tiers. The base S26 starts at $899 in the US, which translates to roughly 70,780 rupees in India.
Got it.
The S26 Plus bumps up to $1,099, and the Ultra sits at a staggering $1,299, going well over 118,000 rupees depending on your local market and storage options.
And multiple tech analysts made a very salient point. The price hike on the base and Plus models makes them incredibly hard to justify if you already have an S24 or an S25 in your pocket. The hardware jump just isn't big enough to warrant dropping $1,000.
That is true, unless you factor in the broader ecosystem shifts that affect how you interact with other people. For example, a major new software feature is that Samsung's QuickShare now supports Apple's AirDrop.
Wait, really?
Yes.
That is a monumental deal. That breaks down one of the biggest walled gardens in all of consumer tech. The sheer social friction of not being able to easily send a high-resolution video to an iPhone user, the whole green bubble versus blue bubble dynamic, has kept so many people locked into the Apple ecosystem against their will.
It is a profound shift toward interoperability, but the biggest long-term value proposition Samsung is offering is the gift of time. They are officially guaranteeing 7 generations of Android operating system upgrades.
Wow. 7.
That means this phone will continue to receive software and security updates all the way up to Android 16, which will take it to the year 2033. And they back that up by engineering the batteries to withstand a minimum of 1,200 endurance cycles.
So what does this all mean for you? I genuinely have to ask. Does anyone actually keep the exact same smartphone for 7 years?
It's rare.
Right. Or is this just brilliant marketing fluff designed to make dropping $1,300 feel like a responsible long-term investment? Let's be real. By 2033, the battery will be chemically degraded, the screen will probably be scratched to high heaven, and the processor will feel agonizingly slow compared to whatever's out there.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the 7-year promise isn't necessarily about you, the original buyer, holding onto the phone until 2033. The dual benefit here operates on a macro level.
Okay, how so?
First, even if you upgrade in 3 years, a phone that still has 4 guaranteed years of software support left has a vastly higher resale value. You recoup much more of your initial investment.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Second, and vastly more important globally, it drastically cuts down on e-waste. If a phone is still secure and receiving updates, it gets passed down to a family member or sold on the secondary market rather than ending up in a landfill simply because the software became artificially obsolete.
That is an excellent point. It creates a much healthier, more sustainable secondary market. So to cleanly summarize this entire deep dive for you, if you are looking to buy today, the S26 base model is strictly for small phone lovers who want flagship processing power without stretching their pockets or their hands.
Exactly.
The S26 Plus is undeniably the unsung hero of the lineup. It hits the absolute sweet spot for battery life, screen sharpness, and ergonomics, provided you don't mind missing out on the top-tier zoom lenses.
Right?
And the Ultra. The Ultra is the ultimate enthusiast tool. It is for power users who demand the vapor chamber cooling for sustained gaming, the built-in S Pen, the hardware privacy display, and the absolute best camera optics Samsung can manufacture.
The choice really comes down to how you use your device in your daily life. What stands out to you? Are you the kind of user upgrading specifically for that vapor chamber cooling to maintain frame rates in heavy games? Or, looking at these specs and the camera gatekeeping, are you deciding to hold on to your older phone for another year?
It is definitely a lot to consider. But I want to leave you with one final thought, circling back to that agentic AI we talked about right at the beginning.
Yeah, the invisible brain.
Exactly. If your new Galaxy S26 can now autonomously screen your incoming calls, silently curate your daily news, and seamlessly book your taxis entirely in the background, all while you focused on something else, at what point does it stop being a tool that you consciously use and start becoming a digital proxy that acts on the world without you ever having to look at a screen? Are we buying these incredibly beautiful $1,000 phones just to look at them more, or are we finally buying technology that allows us to look at our screens less?